Food loss and food waste are big problems that occur in all communities across the globe, and we need to be knowledgeable in the subject if we plan to make a change. Before we get into the specifics, it is important to notice that there is a difference between food waste and food loss. Food loss is food that is disposed of between the farm and the business that will be making the sale, while food waste occurs in restaurants, supermarkets, as well as in the home of the consumer. Most if not all food distributing companies use sell by, best by, and use by labels for their produce. But more times than not, these place dates do not determine safety of the product as much as you would think. Most packaged produce are completely edible for weeks past the due date. Canned and frozen products may even last years before it is harmful.
Many stores and companies are aware that consumers prefer the prettier food, such as the more colorful, rounder, straighter, etc. For this reason, many restaurants and businesses don't like buying the food they have deemed ugly and or throw it away. This problem does not only occur in restaurants and stores, but can also be found in schools and in their cafeterias as well. Schools are wasting more than 530,000 tons annually between the kids throwing away unwanted fruits or vegetables and lunch staff producing much more food than kids are taking.
Food waste is the number one material in landfills, and just food alone is known to take up around 24% of total solid waste. It is estimated that around 1.4 billion tons of food around the world go to waste every year. All of the food thrown away into these landfills rots, which then produces methane, which about 10% of total greenhouse gases worldwide were produced from these wasted foods. Reducing this waste of food by just 15% could feed more than 25 million people every year in America alone and reduce the amount of methane produced.
People may believe that a negative consequence to some of these policies could perhaps be that consumers may ultimately buy less and less food from these businesses, which can lead to a downward shift in demand and would result in lower prices and less food produced and consumed. Selling their food at lower prices than originally could mean lower revenues and profits. Although this could happen to any business and is a very important thing to consider to those who run a business, you can easily see that all the pros heavily outweigh the few cons.
In the late 90s, a group at MIT decided they wanted to make a change, even if it was a small one. And so they built a program. Here's how they did it.
Okay, so it might not look like much, but it's actually quite brilliant. Let's say you have some leftover food. You put it under the camera and you hit the button. FoodCam posts a photo to Twitter, Slack, and a mailing list. All with a simple message: come and get it. The idea came from a building-wide leftovers problem, and in some ways, this simple invention gets at the big problem of food waste.
I mean, that's sort of the serious part of what you have done, really, right?
There is no doubt that this completely helps reduce food waste at the lab.
Almost all of the catering people know that if they have spare food from their event, they can just hit the button and people will consume that food. And those are not even Media Lab events that are now fueling the food cam.
To avoid buying more food than needed, you can make small trips to the grocery store every few days rather than doing a bulk shopping trip once a week. It is wiser to use up all of the food you had purchased during the last trip before making another trip and buying even more groceries than needed.
These items should be kept at room temperature. Separating foods that produce more ethylene gas from those that don't is another great way to reduce food spoilage. Ethylene promotes ripening in foods and could lead to spoilage. Help avoid food spoilage by keeping your fridge organized so you can clearly see foods and know when they were purchased. When you buy a new carton of berries, place the newer package behind the old one. This helps ensure that older food gets used, not wasted. We encourage you to adopt these policies because aside from being good for the environment and helping fight hunger, doing these things can help you save money by reducing the amount of extra food you buy that gets thrown out.
It can also reduce your carbon footprint, preserve energy and resources, and if those who are able to do these things don't do them, the amount of edible and useful food being thrown out will just keep increasing.
So, we're looking for people to interview. Oh hey, there's Omar!
Excuse me, sir. What are your opinions on food waste?
I couldn't care. The school wastes so much food every day at lunch. It doesn't really matter to me.
Alright, thank you for your
Thank you for your time.